Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely Stream Deck. For more information about the Stream Deck, the link is in the description below.
Konnichiwa and welcome along to the first AOR F1 Championship race of 2020 on PS4, and it is Suzuka that plays host to the Japanese Grand Prix, one of the most wonderful tracks in the sport of Formula 1 and a perfect start for this 5-race sprint to the end of season 18. I am Mark Alimonda and shortly we will be introducing you once again to Andy Campbell, but this Suzuka track, one of the only two grade 1 licensed tracks to have a figure 8 layout in terms of the FIA administration. And of course, in the sport's real life history, we've had so many title deciders here, the likes of Damon Hill, Mika Hakkinen, Alain Prost, Michael Schumacher and Sebastian Vettel winning titles here. And interestingly, Ayrton Senna winning all 3 of his championships, clinching here back in 88, 90 and 91. So this 5.8 kilometer circuit has 18 corners, overtaking very much at a premium, only 1 DRS zone. Sector 1, the most important sector on the track, because if you mess up Sector 1, those majestic S-bends, it is very difficult to regain time. And of course, the exit out of the lap-ending chicane at turn 17 and 18, very important for attack and defence in terms of the overtakes during the course of what will be a 27-lap race at a race distance of approximately 153 kilometres. 66% of the lap is Singapore throttle, and as we mentioned earlier, that 18-minute qualifying session will be so important, because if you get caught behind a slow car, you will lose so much time compared to the fast cars in clear traffic. And for your tyre performance, the soft tyre will be very much in use for qualifying. The medium tyres half a second a lap slower, and the hard tyre, we don't expect to see too much use of those, unless of course someone classes into someone on lap 1, has to pit on the first lap. So a quick reminder then of our championship standings after 16 rounds of the championship. The championship in terms of the drivers is already over with Tyrrell Schnitzel clinching it back at Singapore, with Speed Burr in second place, Casper in third, Stay Frost and Jim Roy continuing their private battle over fourth in the championship. Danny MG and Tactician level on points with one another, with Blizzard, Lee Finney and Jim Perez swapping positions, it seems, from race to race in terms of those final positions within the top 10 of the drivers' standings. And in terms of the Constructors' Championship, well, it can't be settled today mathematically, but Mercedes can certainly put themselves in a very strong position with a good result here today, with quite the advantage at the moment to Toro Rosso and Alfa Romeo. And Williams, having been in the top 2 since the opening round of the season, fall to their lowest position so far, fourth. Red Bull and McLaren, well, they have had such a tight battle over 5th in championship, with Renault some distance behind. And in terms of the battles of the wooden spoon, Racing Point have some distance now between Ferrari and Haas, but there's still another 5 rounds to go, including this one, to shuffle the order ever so slightly. Well, with all the standings put out the way, Andy is joining us in the commentary box. A happy new year to you, my friend.
Welcome back to AOR here in 2020, or just so I can get drop kicked by Justin Sutton, 2020, because I know he doesn't like that. But it's a 5-race sprint to the end of the season now, and what a fantastic array of tracks we've got. We've got Suzuka here tonight, Circuit of the Americas next week, we've got the Autodromo Hermanas Rodriguez in Mexico, Interlagos as well in Brazil, and then unfortunately we have to deal with Abu Dhabi, but in league racing that's usually not too bad, so that could still be an interesting battle. What will be interesting, we'll be keeping an eye on the drivers here tonight and seeing what they're able to do. We know the Drivers' Championship obviously is sewing up, but who's going to be second, who's going to take up the other places, and even for those further down the table, now is the crunch time, because obviously the championship position can have a bit of an effect when it comes to if they stay in F1 for season 19 or not, should they wish to. There's a lot of drivers in F2 that are snapping at the door waiting to get in, so they really need to start performing for these last 5 rounds. No, I'm definitely not expecting too much of that at all here tonight. I mean, as you say, the hard tyre, unless someone has an incident in lap 1 and tries to take a long run through the rest of the race. I very much doubt we're going to see much of that tonight. Soft tyre medium is probably going to be the most likely strategy. It just depends on which way round the driver prefers to do it. The mediums are only half a second slower, than the soft compound tyre. The hard tyre about 1.1, but they just don't seem to heat up too well. They just don't keep the grip in them. So be interesting to see. We're expecting pole to be somewhere around about a mid 126 here tonight as well, and we'll go through strategies later on in the race too. But I'd be very surprised if we see the hard compound tyre during tonight's proceedings, unless of course there's a major incident on lap 1. Yes, here we are taking a lap round the Suzuka circuit here. Opened in first Grand Prix in 1987. It's owned by Honda. Down the start and finish straight. One DRS zone here at Suzuka as we head flying down towards turn number 1. 200 miles an hour on the apex. Then down the gears to third gear very briefly as we come up to the SE section. Blizzard stays out of the way. We go up this fantastic section of track. Turns 3 and 4 into turn 5. Nearly having to get a bit of a corrector on there is the McLaren, and then up through 6 and through the Dunlop curve at turn number 7. Nicely on the exit there, through, keep it to the inside line on the left as you come up towards the Degners. Degner 1 pretty much full throttle almost, then into Degner 2. It's cambered on the inside, use the runoff on the exit through turn 10 and up to the hairpin at turn number 11. Good chance of some overtaking here. Remember Kobayashi a few years back in the Sauber making many a move on the way to the podium. Through the curve then as we head through turn number 12 towards Spoon Curve. Very tricky double apex left-hander. Quick on the way in again, use the exit curve, and then again second part on the way out. You can see TRL Schnitzel, the champion, up ahead, and the McLaren's going to try and slipstream all the way up towards turn 15, which is the infamous 130R. Not quite as fearsome as it used to be back in the day. It's pretty much flat out. Schnitzel stays to the right hand side, as does the Alpha. Hard on the brakes into the Casio triangle chicane, using massive amounts of curve there. Hopefully it's not invalidated. Across the line, got to watch that bump on the way down, and it's a 127.2, so it's provisional pole at the moment for the man that we know, formerly known as Stay Frosty.
Yeah, he got a very useful tow from the Mercedes up ahead, and that put him in a pretty decent first banker lap of 127.20. I'm sure we'll see some towing from the likes of the Red Bull team, because Nadi Perez and Jim Roy have done that quite a lot this season. Tesso goes into P2. Now Speed Barry is out there on a flying lap, and he has of course been in very impressive form recently. He's been on the podium 4 times in the last 5 races. 2 of those have been victories, including very impressively at Italy, where he had that duel with Schnitzel and beat him outright. And then of course Tyrrell Schnitzel taking a little wee break at the Russian Grand Prix last week, and Speed Barry picking up his 3rd win of the season. Now here comes Speed Barry up to the line for his first lap in anger. Over the line he goes, and it's immediately a 127 flat, slightly ahead of Nola in P2. Just trying to get the, so just over a tenth of a second. Tyrrell Schnitzel, I think, will switch to him as well, just going through the smooth curve, and it looks like he's going to get a bit of a favour from Nola, who gave him a useful tow on his in lap. So here, this looks like an even better tow, and he heads towards 130R.
He's getting a fantastic tow at the moment as he comes along, and look at this, it's basically repaying the favour as he goes flying by. So what can the champion do? Through the final couple of corners he goes towards the line now. Got to watch that bump, it's so easy to make a mistake there. And there we go, into the 26, he's a 126.9 from the season 18 champion, the double champion now. That's a marker set by the Mercedes driver.
It absolutely is, and I mentioned it earlier, but the 2 Red Bulls are indeed using each other to tow. Nadi Perez giving Jim Roy some useful assistance through the... Oh, that was quite a cut on the final part of the Casio triangle, so that could have been invalidation. It doesn't look like it. Roy still going for it, and it's P4, 4 tenths down on Tyrrell Schnitzel at the moment. So I guess you could say it is the usual suspects, because at the moment the top 5 in the current standings of AOR F1, all in the top 5 of the qualifying with just under 12 minutes of the session to go. Anyone else have that? Alex, according to him, only had an hour present. Oh, and he's had a big incident. He's gone off somewhere. The front wing is missing from the sister Mercedes, and that is not ideal at all. So he must have done that on the in-lap, bizarrely, because he did set a lap, which was just under 9/10 behind Tyrrell Snitzel's session best at the moment, but he must have come a cropper somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not too sure exactly what happened. I only caught the end of it, but it was on the run up the hill, up the Dunlop curve, and he was sideways across the track basically. I'm not sure how he ended up in that position, but that's where he'll have done it. As Hugolf heads to the line to start his flying laps, I think he's really one of only, 4 drivers out on track at the moment. Quite a lot of them are in the pits now after that first salvo of attempts. As you say, it is the usual suspects at the top of the standings, and you know, we need to keep an eye out, I think, on Casper. We've said about Casper a few times. He won the Christmas Classic Cup that we ran during the Christmas off period, and some mighty fine performances in that as well. So he's coming in here with plenty of confidence, having taken that mini championship, as he tries to see how far up the standings he can get. Can he get that victory that he's been so close to getting on multiple occasions before the season ends?
Yes. There are a few questions still to be answered. Of course, the Constructors' Championship can't be settled until probably at least next week at Mexico. Possibly, if it may go a bit further. I think by USA, realistically, at the end of that race, that's where it could be decided. Hugolf then going through Spoon Curve, heading up towards 130, going through the gears as the Haas of Fabi gets out of the way. Fabi currently in P8. So your current top 10 is Tyrrell Snitzel, Speedbarry, Nola, Jim Roy, Casper, Deso, Abel Asnar in his return to the grid today. Fabi, Alex and Lama Queen to make up top 10. But this is like a pretty smooth lap from Hugolf, and I have to say they're able to cut that final chicane quite a bit, and they're gaining quite a bit of time with that. And Hugolf goes P4, so that's a very decent time from Hugolf for his first flying run. Looks like he's only going to use 2 sets of those tyres because he's come out quite late for his first run. Quite a lot of drivers coming out for their outlaps now. Blizzard in the pit lane still. It's an indication that there may be some problems with his car at the moment, so hopefully he'll get out in time to make at least one flying run. So for those outside the top 10, Andy, it's highly likely that they would choose to start in the medium so they can go deep into the race, because the softs are very powerful on low fuel here.
Yeah, absolutely. As we said earlier on, we are expecting it to be soft to medium or medium to soft. It'll be surprising to see anyone outside the top 10 go for the soft compound tyre to start tonight's race. Pit stop strategies, we'll be expecting anyone starting on the softs pitting at anywhere from lap 7 to 11 when doing soft to medium, and if going medium to soft, 15 to 18. So it just obviously depends on driver setup and driving style for that. So that's what to look out for there, and it'll definitely be interesting to see who goes for that, who makes it into the top 10. Does anyone decide to maybe try get onto the medium compound tyre for their best run? You just never know by the end of the session.
It's possible, although we haven't seen anybody fit the medium tyres so far, so I think they are all trying their best to get into the top 10, because we've mentioned it a few times in the broadcast already. Overtaking can be quite tricky here with only one DRS zone available, and some drivers may have to gamble running a little bit less downforce, otherwise they may find themselves struggling to overtake, because this track, it's not quite as bad as Monza, but it can be quite well known for the DRS trains. Here comes AOR Arsenal then heading for the line, and no, he hasn't validated, so let's have a look. Deso, I think he improved, but I don't think he did any better in terms of his places. So Nola, aka Stay Frosty, in P3 at the moment, so he'll be very happy if he ends up there. And Speedbar is actually on his second flying run, and actually Stay Frosty goes into provisional pole with a time nearly at the 1:26.6 barrier that we were talking about prior to this broadcast. So Stay Frosty is certainly on the pace at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely flying along as the McLaren driver. Obviously had that victory earlier on the season at Silverstone in that tricky race where it went wet to dry, if I do remember rightly from watching back, because I wasn't there unfortunately. But nearly a quarter of a second clear of Schnitzel, who's currently on his latest flying attempt by the looks of it, heading up towards the Degner curves. He's a 10th up on his best lap time at the moment, so he's going to give a try. Speed Barry's just put himself into second now, 3/100ths of a second down on Noller's time in pole position, but the champion is on his way towards Spoon Curve at the end of the lap, and he's going to try and take that provisional pole back from the McLaren driver. He's not going to be having any of it just because the championship's wrapped up. He'll be wanting to make sure Mercedes take that Constructors' Championship as well, and he'll be wanting to put down the marker and go, I might be the champion already, but I am still fighting for every point going.
Yeah, and he's getting, again, a very useful tow from Noller's McLaren. I don't think he's doing this on purpose, but he just happened to be on his in-lap. I think if, say, Frosty was a little bit smarter, he might just go very, very slowly lane through, because I think that could give Schnitzel all the time he needs, but goes a little wide out of the final corner, and that's going to be it. And I think that little mistake out of the final exit of the chicane, that's what cost him. And look how close the top three is. Not even half a second covering the top three at the moment. These three at least have got quite a pace advantage over the rest. It's Nardi Perez, no, he's not on a flying lap. What about Jim Roy? Jim Roy's heading for the line. What's it going to be for the former championship runner-up from season 16? And that he's put himself into fourth, so he's still in play at the moment. And what about Blizzard? We haven't seen much of Blizzard yet. Blizzard just going through the final chicane. Is this going to be any sort of decent time? I don't think it's going to be good enough for top 5. Oh, and I completely shot myself in the foot there instantly, because that is good enough for top 5. That is P5 for Blizzard for the time being, so that's a very decent run. But he's going to have to get a move on to get back to the pits. So well, look at that, Andy. How tight is the top 3 at the moment? It's going to be quite an epic end to this session.
Yeah, absolutely. Your prediction there with Blizzard, that was commentators' moments before disaster. That one there, Blizzard gets into the top 5, but as you say, the top 3 especially, 3/100ths of a second separating Noller, Schnitzel and Speed Barry with Roy only a 10th down on pole position as well, so this is shaping up to be very, very nice indeed. Even if we go all the way down to Lee Finlay, who's last at the moment, 1.2 seconds separate the entire field, and there is a couple of drivers missing tonight. Tactician's not at home unfortunately tonight to be in the second Alfa Romeo. Danny MG, his wheels going kaput basically, to what my understanding is, so he's not here, and obviously been a few drivers coming and going as we get towards the tail end of the season. But 4 minutes and 40 seconds to go. This is going to be a shootout for pole between certainly the top 3, if not maybe more. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. I think Casper would be slightly disappointed he's not involved in this fight for pole, because he's over half a second behind. Hasn't quite hooked up a lap yet for Alfa Romeo, relatively speaking, compared to the top 4. And it looks like, say, Frosty is going to come out first for his final run, and Schnitzel, Speedbarry and Jim Roy all in the pits. But I think Schnitzel does have a little bit more time in him, because he clearly made a mistake coming out of the final chicane, which probably cost him half a second at least. Whereas now back into the pits, should have enough time to get back out. It's not the longest out lap here. So Schnitzel in the pits, so we'll keep an eye on, say, Frosty, because he's going to get his lap in first. Now I wonder if Tyrrell Schnitzel will be thinking about trying to get a tow from the McLaren yet again. I'm not sure if Stay Frosty, aka Noller, has been doing this on purpose, because that would be strange, because they're not even teammates. But we'll keep an eye on Stay Frosty as we see the brilliant iconic Ferris wheel spinning in the background. Goodness me, how slowly is he going through this, trying to maintain the temperature in this particular car. Here comes Noller then for his final flying run. Tyrrell Schnitzel coming out onto his out lap as well, along with Jim Nardi Perez. But it looks like Speedbar and Jim Roy, Andy, waiting a little bit longer before they go out for their final runs, trying to get the maximum track evolution.
Yeah, it would seem that way. Only 4 drivers on track at the moment, and the McLaren is the only one on a flying lap at the moment. The rest of them are on outlaps, but you can see now there's more outlaps showing up on the screen as more drivers start to leave pit lane, because it is over 60% full throttle in the lap. It is not the longest track to get around in terms of outright time, and some of the curbs here you can either pick up a penalty or you can abuse them as much as possible to make up the time. And we've seen that especially to our surprise surprised a little bit as well through the final chicane, the Castle Triangle chicane, how much curb they're able to take on the inside of both apexes as they absolutely destroy it on the way through. So be interesting to see what goes on. Ignore yellow flags, they'll probably just be people being slow, getting out of the way as the McLaren runs a bit wide. And look at this, Schnitzel's ahead of him again. I wonder, are these two working together? Because this seems a bit too convenient for me. Like 3 laps in a row, Schnitzel and then Stay Frosty. I've been working on a slipstream effect, but you never know, could have been. But here comes the McLaren. Mercedes gets out of the way. Just look how much curve is used. Not as much this time, but he's completely mullered the inside of that one there. Up towards the line. Can he improve that 26.6.8? He does. It's a 26.4. So that's a heck of a lap time there from Stay Frosty in the McLaren. And, well, is he now going to repay the favour for the 3rd time to the champion?
Yeah, well, the season of goodwill seems to be continuing between these two drivers who are not teammates, but that was a mighty lap from Nola. That's under the benchmark that we expected it to be. We were expecting a 26.6, but we're now approaching sort of the 26.4, 26.3 territory, and I think like I said, sort of speed very clearly could be capable of doing that. I'm just going to have a quick look to see what else is going on out there. Nardi Perez is on a flying lap, and as is Speed Bari, who is behind here as this on track, and Jim Roy, I believe, is also signing up. So we're going to keep an eye on Schnitzel first. Runs slightly wide out of the exit of the second Degner, but that shouldn't cost him too much because it is sector 1 really. If you make a complete meal of sector 1, it is virtually impossible to make up the time because the rest of the track there's not really too much apart from getting that big toe on the back straight into 130R where you can regain the time. It's so important in sector 1 with those S-bends, which are such a satisfying feeling when you get them right. The back end of that Mercedes looks a bit tail happy, but he's going to get the toe. So this is clearly being done on purpose. I'm not sure why Steve Frosty would be helping someone who's on his teammate get pole position, but that remains to see. But it looks as though Thrustmaster is actually down on his best time. If those sector times are believed, 2/10 down apparently. So here comes Thrustmaster then heading for the line. It's got to find a lot. No, that's it. He must have been validated somewhere or something like that. So that is the end of his session. So can Speed Bari take this pole away from Stave Frosty? He did not have a toe, and I think that may well make the difference for Stave Frosty. Into the Casio triangle he goes for the final time. Speed Bari heading for the line with qualifying about to end, so if anyone else has not got a lap in, it's going to be the end of this, and it is, there you go, P2. But I think Stave Frosty may well have pulled off his best qualifying of the season. Jim Roy heading through the final corner. No, he's definitely not going to beat it. Is there anyone else out there is going to do any better than this? Blizzard is out there on a flying lap. Casper, we haven't talked much about him, so Blizzard and Casper have proven to be capable of getting pole positions this season, Andy, so maybe realistically these are the only other two drivers who can deny the McLaren driver from a pole position, which I believe might be his first of the season.
It could possibly be. I'll need to have a wee check on that shortly, unless you're beating us to it, as Dezo's putting himself up. Fabi's in there as well too, having just gone over the line. Whereas Blizzard, he's still at the spoon curve, so as is Casper. So Hugolf heads for the line just now. He's 11th at the moment. What can the Frenchman do? It's no improvement, unfortunately, for him. Alvaro Anzar now coming to the line in the Williams. He's currently bottom of the field in 14th position, and he heads towards the line. Can he improve and get himself out of the wooden spoon? He's up to 5th. That's a brilliant lap time there from him. Here comes Blizzard across the line. No improvement from the Renault. Casper stays 11th. That's a bit of a shocker, if you ask me. And the last car on track is Alex, Mr. 1 hour worth of practice, as he even admitted to himself. And well, he's still only a second and a bit, 1.1 off, so he's doing not bad. And he's not going to be improving because he's already over the 1:30 range. So that is your grid for tonight's proceedings, and it is the McLaren of Stay Frosty, Noller, as you see it on screen, haven't had the name change, who takes pole position. And I'm going to go and have a wee look and see if that is his first pole position of the season or not.
Yes, a bit of a surprise. I don't think anyone would have expected Steve Frosty to take pole position going into the session, but he has well earned that, just ahead of Speed Bari with Schnitzel in 3rd, and Jim Roy with a very solid 4th, and that's not a decent return to the AOR grid after missing the last few races for P5. We'll go through the full results momentarily as sort of quite it looks like a car has absolutely been wrecked. That's a Racing Point that's had a cropper, Lance Stroll style, on the way back. And so Andy, if you can just go through the qualifying results for this session.
Yeah, absolutely. So the McLaren driver on pole position is Noller. We will be saying that a couple of times, just during this week. Everyone knows who is who. It's a 126.4. Speed Barry in second, 1/10 down from Schnitzel. In third place, 2/10 down. Jim Roy in fourth, with Alvaro Anza with that last gasp lap. Try saying that, you've not had a drink. He's in fifth position ahead of his fellow Spaniard Nardi Perez in sixth. Lama Quino, didn't see much of the Ferrari driver, he's in seventh. Blizzard in eighth. Fabi in the Haas in ninth. Dezo rounds out the top 10 for Racing Point. Ollie in the soft compound. And then it was Casper, Hugolf, Lee Finley and Alex rounding out the field of 14. It is going to be dry. I have had my sources confirm that. We do have dry weather for the race, so no fretty rain here in Japan, because as we've seen in the past, it can absolutely monsoon it down. So there's going to be no worries of that here tonight, and we've got a tantalising prospect, a fantastic race at hand, with the top four especially top three and even more, being so close together.
Yes, and I expect to see Casper trying to move his way up the field. He is usually very good when he messes up qualifying, making a result out of nothing. So don't rule out Casper outside the top 10 from making the alternate strategy work to his advantage. As we see a historical car demonstration from earlier today, the 1990 Ferrari F1 90 driven by Alan Cross. Its most famous appearance, of course, in the real sport was when it was taken out by Ayrton Senna at turn 1, which decided the 1990 championship. But these early 90s cars are just so beautiful to look at, and it's a V12 Ferrari engine, we'll never see its like again. So we're about to get underway with our formation lap, so we'll switch back to the session momentarily as we enjoy the V12 noise just for a few more moments. So in terms of those outside the top 10, Andy, what have we got in terms of the tyres?
Well, we've got absolutely no surprises at all. All four drivers outside the top 10 are on the yellow marked medium compound tyres. Everybody in the top 10 on the red marked softs at the qualifying one. So absolutely no surprises, no giant killing shocks in there. It's just as you were, and it's no surprise at all. Those hard compound tyres just do not work around here at all. But can I say, that Ferrari is an absolute masterpiece with that V12.
It certainly was, and they got rid of the V12s, I believe, after the 95 season, went back to V10s. But let's go back to the present. We're in the first race of AOR F1 on PS4 for this new 2020 decade, and in terms of qualifying session, and he alluded to it, this is set up nicely. Schnitzel is going to have to do some overtaking, and given how fast Speedbar has been on race trim in recent races, he may not have his own way today, and it could well come down to the timing of the pit stops. The undercut can be quite powerful here in the clean air, as long as you've saved a bit of battery to go on that full attack. Whoa, and Speedbari has done a David Coulthard from the 95 Italian Grand Prix. He's completely binned it. Wow, you don't often see that at this level. Well, that's a bit of an embarrassing moment to be caught on camera, Andy. That's unbelievable, and it's a very strange place. The exit of Spoon Curve, not normally a place where you lose control of the car.
Yeah, he's just ran it up onto the grass before the curbing on the outside there. It's just spun the car around. Luckily, I don't think damage works within the formation lap, because that would have been minus the front wing already. So he's very lucky indeed with that one there. But it just shows you obviously how much he's obviously trying. He's trying to find exactly how far he can push to the outside. But sometimes when you get to that white line, you can still get a bit of grip out there. Think of Juncao and Interlagos in Brazil. You can use that AstroTurf on the outside. So obviously just pushing it a little bit more, maybe changing some settings, but he's got away with that one. Doesn't want to do that in lap 1 though, I'll tell you that much.
Well, rather sheepishly, Speedbari takes his slot in the grids, and it's quite a fairly short sprint to turn 1 compared to some other tracks. It is 405 metres to be precise. But here come the 5 red lights for the first time in 2020. Apex Online Racing on PS4 is back, and here we go. It's a decent start from Say Frosty, and Speedbari's tyres would not have been in ideal conditions, and for some reason it switched me back to Alex. I'm a bit rusty, I must say, but immediately Schnitzel up into P2, and I think those tyres have really cost him that mistake, because down to P4 has gone Speedbari, but it's been a perfect getaway for the McLaren drivers so far as we get underway for this lap 1 here at Suzuka. It is Dave Frosty, Schnitzel, Jim Roy and Speedbari down to 4th, losing 2 places immediately. Bauer Asnar's maintained his position. Casper has had a nightmare start. He's lost 2 places from the beginning of the race, while Hugo only had gains. So a bit of a mix and match down the field. A bit of blizzard up to P7. So for Schnitzel, that's job done. One of the danger men out of the way already. Mainly, I think Speedborough must have still had grass on his tyres when he came to the grid, because that's the only explanation I feel. But look at Jim Roy, Andy, all over the back of the Mercedes from the start. He has good race pace.
Yeah, definitely so. The Dutchman's looking good early door, trying to catch up to the champion for season 18, double champion now in AOR F1. It was a lovely start from him. Speed Barry losing 2 places. Casper got hung out to dry by the looks of what I just caught in the background in turn 1 and 2. That's how he's lost 2 places. So no real big gainers in the opening laps. And I think Casper's just tried to go around the outside of Lee Finlay through 130R, but wasn't able to get the move done. But it's looking close up front. And this, oh, got a Ferrari off in the background. That's Lamaquina. He's lost it on that bump coming down towards the start and finish straight, put it into the wall, damage to the front wing. I just seen the Ferrari disappear off into the distance there, and the Italian has completely binned it, and that's pretty much his race ruined. He'll have to try the hard compound tyre now and try and see if he can get to the end of the race, but we're nicely set up now for a good race here between the top 4, 5, 6 drivers. It just depends on how much the front 3 or 4 can pull away, and then we'll start to see what goes on. And just picking it up the chat, who's the guy in P1? Noller is Stay Frosty, and we're going to stick by staying that tonight, I think, because that's the easiest way to put it.
Yeah, and he does not look overawed being in this P1. He has won a race this season, of course, already back at Britain when he pulled off perhaps the strategy masterclass of the season, which even Tyrrell Snitzel has no answer for. But Tyrrell Snitzel is starting to settle in just a little bit. Just looks a little bit more racy than the McLaren at the moment. Goes a little bit deep, the McLaren driver. Oh, really squirmy through the spoon curve. They're obviously running fairly low downforce. There is a gravel trap to the right of that curb, so they have to watch that. Someone else has gone off by looks of it at the moment. I don't have half the timing screens. Yeah, Hugh Golf has gone off. And here comes DRS Schnitzel though. He may be thinking about a move at the catch triangle, but DRS will be activated at the start of lap 3, so it's all over the back of the McLaren at the moment. Schnitzel looking for what would be his 12th win of the season from the opening 17 races. Schnitzel all over the back of the McLaren. Say Frosty's got to try and cover him off. He's not going to. He's going to go down the inside. Late on the brakes goes Schnitzel. That was a brilliant overtake, because don't forget, there was no DRS there.
Brilliant overtake there from Schnitzel. Turned the battery up a little bit. Used to slipstream to his advantage into turn 1. You got to remember, there's no braking into turn 1. You can go in there taking it around about 200 miles an hour through the first part. It's the braking point is after that into turn 2, so massive commitment there into turn 1, gets the move done at the start of lap number 3. And as you say, DRS only available down the front straight, not available at the start of that lap. It will be next time by, but that puts the champion into his very familiar position of being first on the road. The yellow flag was Hugh Golf, spun at spoon curve, only caught the end of it, but there's no damage. He was close to his teammate, so I do wonder if they might have had a wee bit of contact, because Dezo dropped off a little bit for a while, and Lamaquina has made it back to pit lane to replace the front wing on that Ferrari, and he's put on a set of medium compound tyres, so I think he'll have to stop for a second time before the end of this race.
Yes, he likely will have to, but he will put himself into contention for a fast lap if we get any more retirements or anything like that during the race. As Jim Roy in P3 at the moment, he's got Speedborough right behind him, who looks odds on to be the championship runner-up this season. He has quite a gap to Casper, 45-point advantage with 5 to go, including this one. So DRS now being used, and that should allow Stay Frosty to keep Tyrrell Schnitzel on this for the moment. Or Speedborough, I should say, be able to get anywhere near. What about Nardi Perez? Nardi Perez right behind him? No, it looks like it's having Casper though. Casper making round the outside of turn 1, Kimi Räikkönen style, and he gets the move done. Absolutely brilliant. Of course, he had DRS assistance, but he still had the hard job to do, and he's up to P10, so he's back into the top 10. But that was a very daring overtake from Casper, but he's now 2 seconds behind Dessa. That is what has cost him being behind a slower car for those opening 3 laps of the race, but he's got more work to do from this point on. But that was a brilliant overtake from Casper.
Yeah, DRS did obviously assist him to get him alongside, but he had to go the long down side to defend the inside. made the Alpha go the long way around, but sometimes that's the better way to go, trying to overtake into turn 1, because you can still use the camber of the to get into the corner nicely, and Casper held it on around the outside and up into the points, finally into the top 10. Needs to start making inroads on that racing point at Dezo in 9th, because obviously his fights to try and be as far up the championship as possible came into tonight in 3rd position behind Speed Barry by 45 points. So at the moment that's not helping him being so far behind, because Barry's up in 4th and already got that massive points advantage. So Casper really needs to get a shuffle on, but he does have the alternative strategy to work. He is on the medium compound tyres, so he will be stopping later.
Right, so Save Frosty sets the fast lap of the race, so he hasn't given up the chase for this win so far. Penalties may come into play, particularly the final chicane and the Deckner curves can be very easy to pick up warnings and penalties during the course of the race at that particular point. No battles going on just yet in terms of side-by-side action, but there's a lot of close trains at the moment, and there's the top 4 all within about a second and a half of each other. Well, Alvaro Aznar's a little bit further back with the likes of Nardi Perez, Blizzard and Fabi behind him. And then
Blizzard's off. Oh, it's Fabi's off. Sorry, it was Fabi. I thought it was Blizzard. Fabi's
oh,
up
yes.
Dunlop. Massive incident there for him.
Yes, well,
he just caught the grass and went 720 degrees.
Well, the Dunlop curves are actually probably a much more dangerous corner on this particular edition of the game than 130R these days. And it's very easy to clip the curves and put a little bit too much speed in there, and then if you get oversteer, it is very difficult to correct it. And he'll have a bit of money. I don't think he had any damage, so luckily he can continue, but that does promote Alex and Lee Finley up into 10th and 11th, Casper up to 9th, so that's good news for the likes of them, as Save Frosty continues to chase down. You just get the sense if Save Frosty were to fall out of the second of Tiras, he would be very vulnerable to the likes of Jim Roy and Speed Barry just behind, and the top 4 are really starting to leave Alvaro Aznar behind. So Jim Nardi Perez, if he's going to be in the fight for the podium, he's really got to start to put Alvaro Aznar under some pressure and get ahead of him for P5, because at the moment it's not really working out for him.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, nearly 2 seconds separate. Speed Barry in 4th and Alvaro Anzar in 5th position at the moment. So the top 4 are starting to sprint away from the rest of the field at this point in time. And for the Williams and the Red Bull and anyone else, because Blizzard's not too far off the back of those guys either in 7th, if they want to have any chance of being on the podium here tonight, they really need to start closing that gap up sooner rather than later. I think the top 4 right now are quite happy to just run the pace they're doing. If an opportunity presents it, they'll go for it. I think they're quite happy as long as the pace is good to just stick where they are and just make sure that they pull away from everyone else behind. But that's the gap. Big gaps at the moment are between 4th and 5th, and then 7th down to 8th. So there's a couple of trains now, 1 to 4, 5, 6, 7, and then is pretty much gaps all the way through the rest of the field. So top 7 are the closest at the moment, and especially that top 4.
Well, if these 4 stay this close for the entire race, this could well be one of the best races of the season, because it is mighty close in the top 4. And I have to say, Save Frosty, on his own merit, is keeping pace with the likes of Six or Speed Barry, so that is great credit to him. He's not having to rely on a strategy or rain, he's doing this all by himself. Speed Barry is trying desperately to get close to Jim Roy, but of course, once Jim Roy gets the DRS as well, it's very difficult for him to get alongside him. Now, can Save Frosty get closer to the Mercedes there? I don't think he can.
Artie Perez making his way through under DRS, sorry to come across. I realised that he was there, and he's finally got that position ahead of the Williams. So can he now pull away from the Williams driver and try and catch up to that train of 4 at the front? Sorry to come across, Mark.
No problem. Unfortunately, it happened, so that because I dare not go away from this in case something happens to them. That's all 4. We see like an overtake at an unusual location. Although I get the sense that if Alvaro Aznar has that kind of pace, he may get dropped in a few laps by Nardi Perez, and he may be vulnerable from Blizzard in P7. As Jim Roy goes quite wide out of the second Deckner. Oh, here comes Speed Barry with a lunge. Contact, and that is broken wing damage for Speed Barry. That was a bit Ricardo, but it wasn't really on. It wasn't really an open gap. He may argue that Jim Roy turned in on him, but I don't think the move was really on there. Roy had to be really compliant, and he was never going to be because he was already really turning into the corner. So Speed Barry has probably put himself out of contention for the podium, because now he's going to have to get back to the pits and replace his wing, and it's quite early for the mediums there is a small possibility he can get them from here, but he would be in puncher territory, so you might have to consider going onto the hards instead. But that is quite a bad moment for the Toro Rosso driver.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, the gap was slightly there, but it was always close as Barry makes his pit late, having to pit for that damage. But yeah, he seen the gap, he thought of chance here, and he went for it. And for me, the door was always, as you say, Mark, going to close. As although Jim Roy had cost himself a bit of time, he was always still far enough ahead by the looks of what we could see on our screens. So that's kind of ruined the race for Speed Barry. That's a bit of a reprieve for Casper, because obviously those two are the closest when it comes to championship standings for second. Casper needs as good a race as possible because he's 45 points behind. So having his nearest rival in second, have to pit early, putting him out of strategy because of wing damage, that could possibly help the Dutchman later on here and bring a few points back to him before they go to Circuit Americas next week.
Well, though, that has certainly opened up the possibility for Safe Frosty and Jim Roy to get onto the podium, because Leonardo Perez seems to have a bit more pace than Alvaro Asnar. He has closed the gap by a couple of tenths, but he's not really getting, sprinting towards these guys. So the top three still seem to have the best pace. It might be interesting to see how quick Speed Barry is on those fresh mediums. So we may see a new fastest lap momentarily. And Alvaro Asnar, what's happened to Leonardo Perez? Oh, he's gone wide at Spoon. And as I was saying that, Nardi Perez has now dropped all the way down, and he may be very vulnerable now to a charging racing point. Here comes Desso. It might go side by side through 130R around the outside. Oh, and well covered off by Nardi Perez. So now he has to switch back to the right to cover the inside, and he just about keeps the defence. But I think there's going to be some action here. Possibly, no, into the pits he goes. So 7 laps done for the softs for Desso. Gets it slowed down in the end. But yeah. Few mistakes creeping in from drivers. We don't normally see too many mistakes from here.
No, definitely not. That was Nardi Perez just running, doing basically what Speed Barry did on the formation lap, catching the grass on the exit second part of the Spoon curve, and nearly around she went. He managed to keep a hold of it, but it's cost him a number of positions. Puts his teammate Jim Roy still in third, drops him down the field now behind Alvaro Anzar and Blizzard, nearly behind Desso as well, who then pitted to make his first pit stop. So we're now in that pit stop window now between laps 7 and 11 for when it comes to the soft compound runners. So expect to start to see those that started in the top 10 coming into pit lane before very much longer, especially those in the top 6. You can see Casper, Lee Finley and Alex, they're all in the medium compound tyres, having started on that tyre. Hugh Golf did as well, but he had a spin earlier which has dropped him behind Fabi, who also spun too. So we've seen quite a few mistakes already out there, as you say, and those at the front will be just trying to keep it as clean as possible. The top 3 have pretty much checked out at the moment from everybody else.
Yeah, they really have so far, and I think they will be stopping very shortly. What about Blizzard? Is he able to get any closer? No, not for the time being. We could see the pit crews really playing a big role here, and here comes Jim Roy. Oh no, actually it's Safe Frosty who blinks first, so he's going to make the first pit stop of the top 3. And if he doesn't get held up, he might get an advantage from the overcut. We'll find out shortly if that is the case. Nardi Perez is in the pit lane for his first stop. Casper moves up to P3. So the top 2 is then Tira Snitzel and Jim Roy. Well, Jim Roy is no stranger to victories at this level of PS4 AOR F1. Season 16 in particular, he had a fantastic season. It was only the brilliance of Michael that prevented him from being champion. And the fast lap, as we suspected, set by Speed Barry on those fresh medium tyres. Safe Frosty has come out in very clean air, 5.4 seconds behind Alex and a gap to Hugo, so that's good news for him. So if he can get the hammer down, he may be able to leapfrog Snitzel, because there was only about half a second between them. So it's all going to come down to the way, how slowly did he come in for the pit lane. Did he brake too early? Lost time there, and then the outlap, of course. He needs to really get the hammer down. But here comes Jim Roy. He's almost dropped a second now out of Snitzel. I think those softs are just about dying off. Tira Snitzel, as we know, Andy, very good on his tyres, so don't be surprised if he decides to do an extra lap. But he must know that if he stays out an extra lap, that may put him under real risk from the undercut.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, if we look at the gap between Stay Frosty and 6th and Schnitzel in the lead, it's 20.5 seconds roughly. So take away half a second, it's about 20 seconds, 21 seconds to make a pit stop from entrance to exit. And Schnitzel has come into the pits along with Jim Roy, so that's going to put Casper, Lee Finley and Alex up towards the front of the field, depending on how they all come through. It'll certainly put Casper into the lead with Lee Finley. In fact, Alex should get through as well. Schnitzel's already underway, set of fresh yellow striped medium compound tyres on that Mercedes. Where is the McLaren of Stay Frosty though? He's coming over the start and finish line now.
It's going to be close.
He's going to have much more speed as he comes down. He's nearly 200 miles an hour. Schnitzel's just getting underway, and Schnitzel's just going to hold on. The gap's still the same as it was before the pit stops, but Frosty's now been on those tyres for one lap, so he knows they're up to temperature, and he really needs to push now if he wants any chance, because we know that Schnitzel, once he gets him into the window he wants, can be pretty consistent through the rest of the race. So nearly worked on the undercut, but not quite for McLaren. It puts the three medium compound runners from the start of the race up into the podium positions for now.
Yes, now Speedbarry is recovering from the incident he had with Jim Roy, and he's in P10, and he's just about to catch Blizzard and Navarro Asnar, who have both pitted, so we could get a very decent three-way scrap between them for what will be P8 in a moment. A few drivers haven't stopped yet. That's 4 drivers, that is Alex, Lee Finney and Casper. Now obviously when Schnitzel catches up to Alex, we will expect team orders from them, and will he try and hold up the likes of Frosty and Roy behind him to give Schnitzel that 1 second advantage. But Lee Finley in the other Toro, so he'll be going long as well, so Speedbarry may yet get some help in that respect in terms of race. So the race victory is by no means settled at the moment. We're just keeping an eye on this battle for P8, because I think Speedbarry is going to be giving the Renault driver Blizzard a bit of a hurry up. So if you don't get past this Williams right now, I'm going to pass you, my friend, through the Casio chicane to get a superb helicopter view from the 3 drivers, and there is the racing point of Hugh Golf up ahead, so this may become a 4-way scrap. Of course, Hugh Golf is out of position, he hasn't pitted yet, so Blizzard, this looks like half a chance maybe. I think Navarro is actually getting a bit of slipstream from the racing point ahead, so that allowed him to stay ahead for the time being. Oh, and how close, almost nudging him through the opening sector of corners. Blizzard desperately trying to get behind, because he knows there's a rampant Speedbarry right behind him, trying to get ahead of him. So Casper, Lee Finney, Alex, Schnitzel, Say Frosty, Jim Roy, Hugh Golf, however, Asnar, Blizzard and Speedbarry are your current top 10. But this battle for P8 could have some ramifications for the places outside the top 5 later on. So Blizzard, he's been patiently trying to get ahead of Aaron Nutter. Couldn't get ahead of him in the pit stops because they both pitted at the same time. And Speedbarry may have had half an opportunity to go for an overtake, but I think he has learned his lesson after what we saw in the race. And Cyril Schnitzel is now within a second of his teammate, so we'll switch to that in a few moments. But a few battles brewing here, Andy, here at Suzuka.
Yeah, definitely so. I don't think Blizzard's being patient, because we nearly got the big massive moment coming up Dunlop. The back end just started to switch out on it, and he caught it very nicely indeed. Looked very on time, if anything at all. I don't think he's being patient, but going up that part through the S's at the back of the pit lane section is not somewhere you can really overtake. You're pretty much either going for the hairpin or you're lining up the chicane at the end of the lap. There's only really 3 overtaking points: the hairpin, the chicane, and turn 1 using DRS. That's pretty much your main stop. As Schnitzel's got past his teammate Alex, and Frosty's still in behind, so watch for the team tactics now from the Mercedes team to allow Schnitzel to get out of that DRS window. I'm sure Alex will play that game very nicely indeed, just to help his teammate along just a little bit. Just need to give that position up. Remember, it is fighting for position at the moment. Alex not pitted yet in this race, having started on the medium compound, and you imagine that's going to annoy the German driver in behind him in the McLaren, because he can see that other Mercedes nearly a second up the road already, just within sector 1, so he really needs to get a move on. Does Frosty? Does he fancy a lunge into the hairpin? He's going for it late on the brakes indeed. Alex gives him the space on the inside line. He's going to have better traction on the way out to come through the curve. A turn at number 12, side by side, heading down towards Spoon Curve. But McLaren pulls in front and has got ahead, but look at that gap between Schnitzel and the McLaren now with Frosty. It's 1.3 seconds, no DRS assistance now for Stay Frosty in his fight to try and get the victory here at Suzuka.
Yes, well that little exchange with Schnitzel got by his teammate, and Stay Frosty was only behind Alex for about half a lap, maybe less than half a lap, but that could well be a pivotal moment in the race. He's now outside of DRS range, so Stay Frosty's got to try and find that pace. We have seen him from, here we go then, this little train here, Hugo, Favaro, Asnar, Blizzard and Speedbarry all within a second of one another. I think Golf is about to get absolutely swamped as we get the almost Terminator view. Here comes AOR Asnar trying to get past Golf. Will Blizzard try and follow through him as well? Oh, he couldn't go for it. So this may give AOR Asnar half an opportunity to scamper away. But my goodness, Golf has no grip at all as he comes out of the second corner. And now Blizzard desperately has to get past this racing point. He's been stuck behind the Williams. He cannot afford to get stuck behind this racing point. He's on a completely different strategy. Casper, incidentally, running very nicely, 6 seconds ahead in terms of lead on the alternate strategy. By far the best driver outside the top 10 in terms of deploying that alternate strategy. And Speedbar picks up a 3-second time penalty as his day goes from bad to worse, frankly. He should have really been battling for the lead here, but that mistake on the formation lap was just the start of a catalogue of disasters, uncharacteristically for Speedbar. Perhaps, Andy, a little bit too much drinking on the old New Year's Eve.
Who knows, it certainly didn't help. The formation lap, the contact with the Red Village Roy into the hairpin, which was done about lap 6 or 7, I think it was. It was just inside the window and no more. And now he's been stuck behind this little train ever since. And at the moment, no, if Casper was to come into the pits, he's only 16 seconds ahead of Speed Barry, as Roy's just got by on Alex into the chicane, so the Red Bull making his way through there as well. Alvaro Anzar's just got himself out of DRS range on Golf, so it's going to leave the racing point a wee bit exposed one more time, but Blizzard's a bit further back than what the Williams was last time by. You can see he's closing. Is he going to go for it? No, he's not going to be able to. He's just not able to get the power down. Out of the final corner, down the front straight to make a go, and now it's going to be another agonising lap, stuck looking at the back of that pink car for one more time round this 5+ kilometre circuit, and that must be absolutely tearing him apart in that Renault, because you can just see position slipping away with every single corner.
Yeah, certainly is. Blizzard seems to have pretty good downforce when it comes to the slower corners. He's able to follow really closely, but when it comes to the crunch on the DRS straight, what seems to me, but I think he's going to go for a move here into this hairpin. Yes, he does. Much more grip on those fresh mediums, and that was a well executed overtake. Seems to have much more confidence in the slower corners, but it seems to be on those fast flat out sections such as 130R and of course the main straightway. Seems to lack a bit of straight line speed. Expect Speed Barry will be following through on the racing point very shortly at the moment. Oh, and Blizzard having a huge moment out Spoon Curve. It's been a problem for the drivers today. And it looks like someone else go off at the same time, but that's an absolute gift for Speed Barry. Can he make it a double winner? Thank you very much. Can get ahead of Golf as well. Right behind him. Golf covering the inside. He's going to have to go late on the brakes around the outside. No, he's not able to. Not like what Jim Roy did to Alex. The sort of Hulkenberg see you later style move. Golf struggling for traction again. This should be a comfortable overtake. So Blizzard undoes all his good work with that mistake out of the Spoon Curve. But I think Blizzard's going to try and get back ahead of him, and he'll be super frustrated that Speed Barry was able to get ahead of him with that mistake. But he gets ahead of Golf in the end. It's a frantic battling going on in the midfield.
Definitely so. Blizzard picked the wrong moment to try his Tokyo Drift moves there through Spoon Curve, because that's not doing. I think the other bit of dust you've seen was Alvaro Anzar just slightly onto the grass, but nothing major as he stayed up ahead of him. But Speed Barry, that was the biggest gift he's had all night after everything else that's been going on, puts him into 8th position. You can see though Schnitzel's now onto the back. Lee Finley still got 1.3 seconds over Stay Frosty in the McLaren as well, so he's maintaining that gap behind as well, while closing in on the medium compound. It's Lee Finley in the Toro Rosso, who still hasn't stopped yet. Him, Casper, Alex and Hugolf all have started in the medium compound tyres, done 15 laps on them, and here comes Schnitzel, plenty of grip out of Spoon Curve, flying up towards 130R, move done before the corner, and he's away and into 2nd position. We'll expect to see those 4 guys that haven't pitted in before very much longer, I would imagine. Stay Frosty, we're hoping that Lee Finley comes in very quickly so he can get out the way, because that McLaren's not quite close enough, I don't think, no, definitely not, to make a move into turn 1. Alex pits from P6, so that's going to move everybody up a few more positions as he drops down the field to his pit stop. Schnitzel into 2nd. Next target's Casper, who's not got long to go before he'll be pitting in the next couple of laps. It's 11 laps to go, including the one they're on. Casper leads Schnitzel, Lee Finley in 3rd, Stay Frosty 4th, Jim Roy in 5th position.
Yeah, well, I think Steve Rossi still had the chance of winning this race. Could well come down to penalties. His race pace has been absolutely fantastic. His Schnitzel's not been able to run away, even with these sort of delays that Steve Rossi's had getting ahead of this track. And I suspect that Lee Finley, with the lack of grip out in his sides, I think Steve Rossi's going to probably go for a move at the hairpin. No, he's not able to go for it. Lee Finley covers him off, so that's going to lose him more time. Agonising for Steve Rossi now. Schnitzel chasing after Casper, but it will be in vain likely, because Casper will be pitting surely around the outside. Well, that was easy as you like for Steve Rossi, although I think Lee Finley probably knew the game was up, no point fighting. He was about to pit. Jim Roy not far behind him, so the top three looks like at the moment it's going to be Schnitzel, Steve Rossi and Jim Roy when everyone has pitted. And Speedbar is back up to P7. It's a bit of a question mark whether he'll have much tyres left at the end, but I think he'll just about make the end of this racing. And Casper then pits. Now he will be on the soft tyres. It's going to be interesting. I think he'll come out probably about, well, by the looks of it, it's quite a tight field still, so I reckon it'll be around 9th or 10th he'll come out. So it's going to, but it'll be interesting to see how many places he can regain back, because the softs, as we mentioned way earlier on in the broadcast, are very powerful at this track when the fuel has gone down quite a bit. So the final pit stops, I do believe, have happened, so everyone has made it their one and only stop at the very least. So your race order then: Tyrrell Schnitzel, Steve Frosty, Jim Roy, Havaro Asnar, Speed Bari, Blizzard, Nardi Perez. Casper has come out in P8 actually, just ahead of Racing Point, so that's pretty important. So he'll be able to get onto the back of Nardi Perez pretty quickly. Now, podium may be slightly beyond him, but 4th place may be a good recovery. And I think that's possibly because the soft tyres are about a second faster at this stage of the race at least. So we'll keep a close eye on him. But for the time being, Tyrrell Schnitzel is on course for his 12th win of the season, unless of course he picks up a time penalty, because neither, I believe, Schnitzel or Steve Rossi has one at the time being. And Jim Roy not far behind himself, just over a second behind the McLaren driver.
Yeah, he's doing pretty nicely there in 3rd position. Casper just got out ahead of Dezo by no. But I thought he would be behind the race point coming out of the pits, but that's worked nicely for the Dutchman, meaning that he can now start attacking his way back up through the field. He's already within DRS range from Nardi Perez, who's already done 8 laps on those medium compound tyres, so expect the Alpha to be trying to make its way past within the next, or possibly by the end of this lap maybe, as Blizzard picks up a 5-second penalty for exceeding the track limit. So he's really been abusing the heck out of some of the curbs around here in this track. But here we go from Casper, he's got a great run. Nardi Perez is completely defenceless, and it's going to be a pretty slam dunk move there from the Alpha down into turn 1, well in before turn 1. Casper already up to 7th, he's got 4 seconds before he catches Blizzard, so it's a few more laps yet before he catches up. Jim Roy though, back to him, catching up slowly but surely by the looks of it onto Steve Frosty in 2nd, 6/10 behind at the moment. And that Red Bull seems to be a little bit more comfortable on these medium tyres than it did earlier on the softs, just finding a little bit more pace at the moment, it seems like. And those two are falling back ever so slightly from your race leader at TRL Schnitzel, who's now nearly 2 seconds clear of the chasing.
Yeah, and you get the sense Casper is about to absolutely smash the lap. Fastest lap here. Golf having setting it just a few moments ago. So he's in P7. Now he's got to chase after Blizzard. So because of Blizzard's 5-second time penalty, which may be one of those nonsense ones you get, so it could be removed by the stewards later on, but assuming it isn't, Casper is at least P6 at the moment. And now he's got to give chase to the likes of them, Speed Barry, now Asnar. Lee Finley on the back of Fabi. He should have a huge tyre advantage. So I think he'll be able to get back into the top 10 and may well be competing for that fastest lap award. So Casper's about to head to the line, so we'll see if he gets that fast lap. Then we'll go straight back to Lee Finley, see that battle brewing, and Nardi Perez gets a 5-second penalty, probably for the same offence at the Casio Triangle. Nardi Perez back in the pits again, so he's looking to get a fast lap award, and he's retired from the race. I think he's retired frankly with disgust, but if it was one of those nonsense penalties, he could have got it removed. He was on for points, so I don't really get that. But here comes Lee Finley then. Can he make a move for P10? Fabi comes him off. It's for P9 now, of course, with the retirement of the Red Bull driver. No, for the time being, Fabi defends that off quite nicely.
Yeah, holding on nicely. And Nardi Perez obviously just, that must have been the chicane then, because obviously he's got straight for pit lane as soon as he got that penalty and retired in pit lane. And as you say, some of those, if it is proven to be... Oh, and Hugo's retired from the session as well. Point driver. I'm going to follow on with La Maquina, but it's in sector 1, so it'll be well clear before the Ferrari gets anywhere near there. So 2 retirements in the space of a lap there. Nardi Perez retiring in pit lane, and Hugo has dropped it somewhere on track possibly. So yellow flag in sector 1. I'll see if I can pick it up with the Ferrari La Maquina as he eventually comes round. He's obviously had an issue at the start where he spun at the down here where he is right now at the start of the lap, at the end of lap 1 and into the wall, so not good for him at all. But we'll see if I can find what happened to the racing point, see if he's still on track.
Well, here we go, the battle for P2 is on. Jim Roy has looked after his tyres a little bit better. Here it comes with Jim Roy, into P2 he goes, and he has done that once this season already, back at Hungary, so he's on for his 3rd podium of the season. And Stay Frosty himself is on for his 3rd podium of the season, because it looks unlikely if Arasno is going to friend him. That's just Jim Roy. And having overtaken Stay Frosty, who got pole position, has he looked after his tyres? Has he got the pace now to chase off Snitzel, to give him something to think about in the closing laps of this race? We're going to go straight back to Lee Finley, because Lee Finley, no, still not able to overtake the Haas, which is doing a fine job in P9 at the moment. Casper is now on the back of Blizzard, who's had a bit of an awful couple of laps, because he's now 3.4 seconds behind Speed Barry, which is incredible given that Speed Barry's got much older tyres than he. So it looks like Casper is about to make absolute mincemeat of this Renault car.
Yeah, absolutely. You'd imagine with the fresh tyres, only 3 laps old. Blizzard's been on those mediums for 11 laps. Remember, he was behind the likes of Alvaro Anzar and a few others as well for a few laps before he got through and then made a mistake, so that'll have not helped his tyres as well, because being stuck in that dirty air, just obviously understeering, he had that slide, he's running a bit wide there through his spoon curve on the exit, and I just think Casper here, he's catching up before 130R, but the sensible thing here would be to try and follow through. Oh, Blizzard cuts off the inside line. Casper's now got the inside for the chicane, but no way through. His best bet though is just get a good exit here. He's got the grip of these tyres. Use the DRS down towards turn number 1, because Blizzard has none. And here we go, the Alfa Romeo on the Renault down towards turn number 1. Does Blizzard go defensive? He does not. It's going to be a late one through, but Casper is through and up into P6. And that was a nice little DRS assisted move there to get him through and up into the points for even more. Blizzard are expecting to drop back, just looking,
contact from Lee Finley and Fabi. That got slightly personal there, but I think Lee Finley had the right to go for that. And Fabi didn't quite leave him enough space, and Lee Finley gets ahead of him with those fresher tyres. So that's a good move. But Casper, with all that battling with Blizzard and being stuck behind him, I'm not sure Blizzard's had an off somewhere, or has damage or something, because he seems to be going so slowly now. He's 5 seconds behind Speed Barry, so 6th may be the best he can manage at this point. Battle for P2, still very tight. Stay Frosty is not letting him, Jim Roy, get away from him, so we can see something about it. But they're actually closing on Snitzel ever so slightly. The gap's sort of stabilised at around 2 seconds, although Snitzel, you feel, probably saving battery, has better battery than Jim Roy at the moment, so you feel he's probably got a bit extra left in the tank if he needs to use it. Probably comfortable with this 2-second gap for the time being.
Yeah, definitely. So we know how good Schnitzel can keep the energy in that battery, keep the charge there for when it's needed. I remember him doing it at Germany, where he just sat there for lap after lap using the DRS, charged it up to 100%, made his move for the lead, and then sprinted off in the next 3 laps very quickly as Casper sets another fastest lap of the race on a 29.4. I think Blizzard maybe had a bit of a slide coming up the S's and into Dunlop, didn't catch it, but as you say, he was going a bit slowly on screen as Fabi fancies trying a bit of revenge on the Toro Rosso. Lee Finley close enough into turn number 1, but Lee Finley's ran wide. Fabi, I thought he was going to stick his nose in there at turn 2, but thought better off it. That would have been wing damage if he did, so these two will fight to the end of the race. The part I was going to say before that damage did come up is that the top 3 don't have any penalties. In fact, last time I looked, Schnitzel didn't even have a warning. Stay Frosty had 2, Roy had 3. Most of the field have at least 3-second type penalty. I think the only other one I've seen with no penalties was Lee Finley, but I'll need to double check that because that was a few laps ago. So exemplary driving by the top 3 at the moment.
Yes, I mean, until Speed Barry made that huge error during the first instance, or Jim Roy and Steve Frosty have clearly been the class of the field today. They've all driven splendidly here, and this is a real return for form, particularly for Jim Roy, having crashed out at Russia last week and been on the podium since Belgium, but he's finishing the season strongly, and it's been almost impossible to separate Jim Roy and Steve Frosty this season, and we get a perfect demonstration of that. Look how close Steve Frosty is around the back. They're almost next to it. There's only 5 points between Steve Frosty and Jim Roy in the championship standings at the moment, so I think they may well be swapping positions once again, because well, actually I think Steve Frosty's gap will be reduced to 2 points, 18 points for second and 15 for third. So this titanic battle for fifth place, or fourth place in championship now I should say, will carry on, it seems, to the end of the season. So going further back down the order, Speed Bar, he still can't get ahead of Alvarez, probably paying the price for the lack of fresh tyres in his efforts to get ahead of the Williams driver. But Alvarez did pick up one of those 5-second last chicane penalties, so Speed Bar is on for, at the very least, fourth place, but that for him will still be a very disappointing result given where he started in this race.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, I've said it a few times this season, I'll say it again, he has one of the revelations of this speed has came from nowhere. I said it, I think it was in Russia last time out before the Christmas break, that I'd seen him before, I knew he had some good speed, but he just seemed to always be a little bit inconsistent in places. And this season he's really impressed me with the consistency, but today it's just been a bit of a step back. It's just kind of caught him off, maybe, as you say, just the New Year period, bit less practice maybe, he's just put him a little bit rusty on the first week back, but to get back up to fifth place still is still going to be a pretty decent result. As you see, Frosty and Roy, nearly pretty much one car going into turn number one, and Barry's finally got the move done on Alvaro Anzar into turn number one. Just as we're talking about him, he makes that move and he's back up into fourth position, still 2 places down on where he started. He was in the front row of the grid, but considering that issue with the wing and having to pit early, 8 seconds off the lead, what could have been for that Toro Rosso? He might have been looking at yet another victory here tonight if it hadn't been for that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, just under 3 laps to go then of this first AOR F1 race of 2020, a new decade, and I have to say it's been a pretty entertaining one. Haven't had quite the battle for lead it almost promised to be. Jim Roy and Steve Frosty almost battling themselves out of the equation for the win, but if Schnitzel would suddenly get a time penalty, everything would change once again. Steve Frosty clearly trying to save battery. He hasn't really gone for an overtake. He's had the speed to on the straight to do so, but now he's really putting Jim Roy under threat. Is he going to go for a Alonso-style overtake around the outside at 130R? I think Jim Roy would be very wise to that, very experienced and calm head behind that, famous last words. And Steve Frosty really putting Red Bull under pressure. Honda engine versus Renault engine, of course equal performance cars here in this particular tier, and Steve Frosty right on the back of it now, full attack mode, and this is the moment. It's going to have to go around the outside. We saw him do a similar move earlier in the race. Can he go around the outside? Oh, around the outside, yes, he does it! Round the outside, brilliant move by Steve Frosty. Penultimate lap then. Jim Roy has plenty of battery himself though, so I'm sure they will go hammer and tong and get at it once again for next time they go on the start-finish straight.
That was beautiful there from the McLaren around the outside. Pinpoint accuracy. Had the engine turned up, turned the battery up, and everything. DRS to help. Sweeping around the outside, side by side through the first part. Got the move done, held it as well. Beautifully done. Can Jim Roy put anything back on the final lap of the race? Because he's now going to have the DRS. Can he save up the battery enough to have a go down towards turn number one? Frosty's using up his batteries in overtake mode. He's just starting to turn it down now. You can see Roy's got it at 0. He's trying to harvest energy up for one final attack on the last lap. But fantastic racing we've seen through the field. Some great overtakes, and that was just another one. Great way to start 2020.
So here we go then. This is the step to the overtake as we get the overhead shots. Jim Roy's got to keep as close as he can, but the exit here out of turn 16, 17 and 18, the Casio triangle, this is where it's important. And they look like pretty... Oh, and that's a brilliant exit from Jim Roy. He is going to go... Oh, my goodness. How close to the inside line. Nearly smashed into the pit lane entrance. But here comes Jim Roy. He's going to try and go around the outside. Stay Frosty trying to cover it off as best he can. And out drags to the line. Final lap here. Beginning here at Suzuka. And Jim Roy back ahead in the battle for P2. But that exit out of the Casio Triangle was brilliant. Even basically covering as much the inside as he could. Stay Frosty just didn't have the speed to prevent Jim Roy from getting up ahead. So that was absolutely brilliant. Further down the order, it looks like Fabi is still trying to get ahead of Stay Frosty. It looks like he has, yes, he has out-dragged him. Back up to P9 he goes, and that may well go all the way to the final corner. Schnitzel, all his battling between second and third, has allowed him to get a 3-second gap, which makes him safe from a penalty, even if he gets one now. Unless, of course, it's one of those final corners. Imagine if that happens. That would be absolutely sensational if that would happen. And he's about to come up to Lamaquina. Lampens a really useful toe. So, through the spoon curve goes Tyrrell Schnitzel for the final time. Victory number 12 looks like it's about to arrive for him. He missed the Russian Grand Prix, had a pretty extended Christmas break, but he has come back with a vengeance. He didn't have it his own way in qualifying. It was a very competitive race though, pushed all the way by likes of Jim Roy and Stay Frosty. But heading through the Casio Triangle for the final time. It is Tyrrell Schnitzel. Is there going to be any late lunge behind from the McLaren? I don't think it's going to be. No, and Tyrrell Schnitzel will head across the line here at Suzuka and win the Japanese Grand Prix. And just behind him, their superb race-long battle comes to an end. Jim Roy picks up P2 and Stay Frosty, aka now Nola, picks up P3. Speedbar in P4. But once again, Andy, it is the man in the silver arrows, Tyrrell Schnitzel, who takes the victory here, his 12th of the season, the reigning double champion.
Yeah, the man, the myth, the legend, he does it one more time, 12 victories in, what's that, 17 races. It's just a phenomenal consistency record. Every race that he's competed in, obviously he didn't compete in Russia, but everything that he has done, first or second, it's just absolutely mesmerising season. But what a great battle in those last few laps, especially from Jim Roy and from Stay Frosty over second and third. Speedbarry getting himself up the fourth. Casper, 5th position. He'll pick up the bonus point as well for the fastest lap off the race in a 29.4. And then you've got Alvaro Anzer, Dezo, Lee Finley get ahead of Fabi just purely because of penalties there. So that was why Fabi was so determined to get that move done. He finished 9th. Blizzard gets the final point. Alex 11th. We're just waiting on Lamaquina, who's coming up to 130R. Had a horrible race, the Italian. Spun on lap 1, damage at the very beginning. Had to do an entire lap with a damaged wing, and it was just a case of damage limitation and hope that some more people retired during the race. Wasn't to be. So he's coming up to the line now to finally come across and finish the race. But your winner here in Suzuka, again, is Tyrrell Schnitzel.
Absolutely. If he had the same race engineer as Lewis Hamilton, it would be getting there Dom. It's happened so many times this season, and he's going to celebrate 2020 the way he finished 2019 in many ways, with yet another victory. No driver has come close to him in terms of success since season 17. He's a double champion, and with this result, Mercedes moved that ever a little bit closer to clinching the Constructors' Championship, which may well be mathematically possible next week. But fair play to Jim Roy and Stay Frosty. They really put on a good show in those closing laps, and well deserving of their podium results. And they've been a regular feature on the podium this season. So here's your provisional result then for the AOR F1 PS4 Japanese Grand Prix as Andy gets ready for the interview. Tyrrell Schnitzel taking the victory by just over 5.8 seconds, and actually Jim Roy and Stay Frosty did both have a 3-second time penalty in the end, so they make up the rest of the podium. Speedbarry, a race to forget in many ways, although P4 still a solid result, but compared to what he was doing recently, he'll be slightly disappointed by that. Casper in P5, Asno with a solid return to the field today in P6. Desso with a great result for Racing Point in P7. Lee Finley in P8, Fabi in P9, and Blizzard with a lot of time penalties. Not sure if any of those will be removed at a later stage, so the championships tables may get updated later on by the stewards. And then Alex in P11, Lamaquina in P12, and your two retirements were Hugh Golf and Nadi Perez. So we're going to go for the interviews now. So we will be with you shortly, trying to get the top 3 into here. But that was a pretty good race. So let us know in the chat who your driver of the day was. There's several candidates in in many ways, I'm almost tempted to give it to Tim Roy, because I thought it was a real return to form for him after some of the recent results. I mean, it's hard to look beyond the race winner, of course. Casper had a good recovery from outside the top 10, having had that poor qualifying results. So I'm just going to create an invite for those in you. So Andy, your initial impressions of that race? A pretty entertaining race to kick off 2020 in AOR PS4 F1.
Yeah, definitely. Saw some very good action through the fields. Fantastic, especially down into turn 1. Quite a few mistakes though, a few of the drivers, a bit of rustiness it would seem from the Christmas break. A few spinners and a few mistakes through the field, but Schnitzel and Lee Finlay were the only two not to pick up any penalties. And Jim Roy and Stay Frosty were very close to it through the race, but obviously picked them up towards the end in that titanic battle that they were having. But driver of the race, I tend to agree with you on Jim Roy. You know, really good return to form there. We've seen him have a good race in Hungary when he was on the podium. It's been a bit up and down at times this season, but that was a good return to race pace. Frosty had a great race as well. It is hard to look beyond the defending champion sometimes though, but I'll give it to the Dutchman, I think, just from Stay Frosty.
Yes, and well, you know, we've still got 4 races of the season. I mean, it seems like yesterday we were starting back in August for this particular season. And well, I'm very much looking forward to some of the tracks coming up. You know, Mexico, USA, Brazil and Abu Dhabi, all great league racing tracks on the game. So we should have 4 really good, strong races. So just waiting for some people to join. We've got the 3rd place driver here. Just going to wait for at least the race winning to get here, and then we can get underway. So yeah, we have no more season breaks before the end of the season. So the next 4 Sundays after this one, we have great racing action to bring you in the top tier of PS4 on F1. And although the championship battle will not live long in the memory because of Schnitzel's dominance, we have seen some great racing as always this season. And we will be back again for Mexico next week. But before that, we're going to do some interviews. So we're still waiting for the top 2 to get into here. Dom usually no stranger to the champagne, and indeed having a few words after the race. And of course, straight after this, we have the top tier action on PC and Xbox. So stick around on the AOR F1 channel on YouTube for all the action from there. Hopefully we get good turnouts from both of those particular tiers. Any sign of the top 2, Andy? I haven't seen them join yet.
Well, Roy's obviously here, and he was second. You're getting the 2 of them mixed up there. Come on. I think the best way to do it would be to start, but you were mentioning obviously the top tiers of PC and Xbox getting underway. PC has started, they'll be in qualifying. Don't go anywhere until we're done. You shouldn't miss much of the race, if anything. Xbox is at 9, but if you want to see possible some of the drivers that might come into F1 next season, check out the F2 tier with Luke Etheridge and my old commentating buddy Ollie. They'll be on just as well. Look through the channel and you will find out. We're still waiting on the race winner Dom. We've got the other 2 drivers off, Roy and Stay Frosty, so we're going to get cracking on. I think the best way to do this rather than hanging around, and we'll start with the 2nd place driver of Jim Roy. Roy, fantastic race, a return to form for you as well. Some brilliant race pace out there, taking 2nd at the end. Give us your perception of that race from your point of view.
Well, the first lap was really hard. I was going out the outside of Speedway, then I was 3rd, and yeah, I stayed 3rd, and when I had my pistol I got the help a little bit, but yeah, I managed to close into Stay Frosty, and we had a really nice battle towards the end, which was really good and funny. So yeah, that's it.
Simple as that. It certainly didn't look that simple out there. How was it those last 2 laps? You've both passed and repassed each other up towards the line. It must have been a lot of fun, as well as being quite nerve-wracking, I would imagine.
Yeah, I was a bit of nervous. I saw both of us making a lot of mistakes during the last 2 laps because the nerves were kicking in, and yeah, it was on the limit, just how it should have been.
And that was good, clean racing from you both. Last question for yourself. I'll let you go tonight. Can you keep this pace up through the last 4 rounds of the season? Can we see you challenging to get that victory in the top step?
I'm not sure. I don't think so, to be honest, because I don't have much time to practice the last races, but this race I had, luckily, but yeah, normally I'm not able to practice in this much, so then I'm not in the front anymore.
Well, congratulations on P2 here tonight. Fantastic race, and thank you very much for joining us for that quick re-ender. Really appreciate it, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks, have a nice evening.
Yourself, thanks. So we move on to the race winner who's finally made it through. He's too busy drinking the champagne from the podium with his team down in pit lane. TRL Schnitzel, Dom, we meet again, my friend. 12 victories this season. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Is there any way of stopping you at all?
There must be some way. No, it's to be honest, this race in particular, I think I got properly lucky on more than one occasion. Since I was starting with quali, I think the last run would have been enough for P2, which would have made my life a bit easier. But sadly, I made a mistake into the hairpin, and still it was luckily enough, it was still good enough for P3. So, well, I was first lucky moment was the start, because I never had such a good start in my life somehow. So I was able to get alongside Frosty into turn 1, but I didn't want to do. But we were kind of not really playing a team game, but we were in the same party, so we both kind of knew that we wouldn't ruin each other's race in turn 1 already. So I was happy with P2 going into the first few corners, so I backed out a bit and made sure I kept the position and kept us two clean at the front. And then, yeah, from then onwards, it was pretty much judging what everyone else is going to do with the strategy, with pit stops, with how they're going to time their overtakes. So I was told that Frosty would pit at 1 lap earlier, so I tried to save up what I could for that 1 in lap that I had, and somehow I was able to rejoin in the net lead. Sadly, since this game is a little bit weird with pit stops, that cost Roy we punched Roy out of the DRS window, which was not his fault at all. Which is just the game being the game, I guess, with the pit stops. And I got lucky on 2 occasions as well with the traffic, so where I got passed in a pretty good spot where I even gained some time with the slipstream, and the opposition behind me being caught up with the traffic. So it was a textbook race in terms of execution, but in terms of raw pace, I think it would have been. I would have been happy with the top 5, to be honest. But of course, happy to take the win away.
I've never thought I'd hear the day when I hear you say you'd be happy with top 5. There you go. Because if I remember correctly, I don't think every race you've competed in top tier, you've been on on the podium since round 4 last season, which is amazing in its own right. It's just ridiculous. How do you see the end of the season going? Continue first and second, or do you fancy giving someone else a chance?
It's a kind of a weird mix between wanting a good race for in terms of viewership, but also just that drive, with that competitive drive wouldn't allow you to do that, to kind of let off. But I don't know. I'll go into how many races are there left? I think it's 5 or 6 races. 4 races. 4 races. I'll go into them with the same kind of mindset that I had today. Just be happy with whatever the race happens to give me. And it kind of worked out today. Shouldn't have, in theory, or I would have thought, but somehow it did.
Listen, we wouldn't expect anything different from you other than trying to win. Thanks very much for joining us again, Dom. Congratulations on what I think, if I've done my maths right, it's the 12th victory for you this season. Well done once again, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Finally, we move on to Stay Frosty, who obviously had the PSN change there tonight, but we stuck with Stay Frosty just to make it clear for viewers. Really good qualifying lap from you as well. We were estimated at 126.6, and I think you've done a 126.4. Wee bit of slipstream work there with Dominic. Working out pretty well for you, it would seem.
Yeah, definitely. I was very happy with the quali pace, and the slipstream worked perfectly. And I don't know, I think it was my personal best. So I even lost a little bit of time in the first sector, but overall the lap was pretty good. And in the race, I was actually pretty surprised by the start of Schnitzel. And by then I tried to stay within the DRS train, which worked pretty good. But after the pit stop, we came up to some traffic and I lost the DRS train, and in this game that's just game over, especially when you have a driver in front of you like Schnitzel. You can't keep up with his pace. He's unstoppable, to be honest.
It does definitely not help with DRS for sure, but it gave us some fantastic action in the closing laps between you and Jim Roy. You were passing and repassed each other for a few laps right at the end there. Obviously, we asked Roy earlier his point of view. How was it from the driver's seat? Must have been enjoyable but nervous as well.
Yeah, definitely. I was behind him with like 4 or 5 laps to go, and I was really thinking when I should try to get a move. And I decided to go 2 laps before the end, and unfortunately he got me in the last lap, and I just had no chance in the back straight. Yeah, but it was very fun.
And we've got 4 rounds left to go here. Where do you think's your best chance of repeating your success at Britain, or at least being back on the podium and speaking to us again before the season's end? Where do you think's your best opportunity?
I actually don't know, because I don't think I have driven any league race on the races that are left. So I really don't know how good the pace is, and I don't know how much I can practice before the race. So it's just a little bit of a surprise.
I'm getting in there before you absolutely smash it in Mexico. But anyway, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for joining. P3.
Thanks. Good evening.
Thank you. And that brings an end to this evening's proceedings and again to the interviews.
Well, thank you very much, Andy, for those interviews, and as ever, a big congratulations to the top 3 for the first race of AOR on 2020. So a look ahead to next week then. We are going to be heading for a brief tour of Central and Southern Americas, with starting in Mexico, and then we'll be going to USA and Brazil. So that should be the start of a trip ahead of some thrilling racing. Mexico, of course, the high altitude, particular the main straight, that colossal main straight, will see the majority overtaking action. We will see you then at the same time next week. Thanks for watching, and see you next time on